Meow. Alright, so I want to begin. A bunch of cat noises. The reading from Highland, two of the participants in particular reminded me of my co-teacher, and that's what I immediately wanted to reflect upon. I think it was Pam and Sylvia. And let's just talk about Pam first. How her low expectations of her students reinforced this helper mindset, and that helper mindset, in effect, implied that that her students of color were incapable of learning. And that's something that I saw every day in my co-teacher's class, of the regular algebra class. So that was what I took away from Pam. And then Sylvia, how Sylvia reminded me of my co-teacher, was this narrative about assimilation. Like, basically the whole interview, the theme for when I was interviewing my co-teacher, like, the theme was, well, students need to assimilate. And I didn't really, it was kind of difficult to decode what he was talking about, but Sylvia's narrative actually helps me understand a little bit better what he was suggesting by saying that his students need to assimilate. And what she means and what he means is that these students need to basically assimilate into the dominant group. They need to assimilate into the white race, not necessarily meaning that they have the capability to change races or change their phenotype, but it means that they should be acting a certain way. Like, these students are acting black or acting to Latino. They need to conform to the dominant culture or the dominant group in society, the dominant race, which is white. And for those students who couldn't assimilate, and this is the same narrative that I saw from my co-teacher, is that the families were always to blame. And that's something that is not just my that single co-teacher, but a lot of teachers I've ran into easily place blame on families for students not behaving the right way. It's always about what the families are doing wrong, or the parents just aren't there. And then I have to ask myself, how much of that am I actually, adopting? How much of that am I, brushing off and acknowledging that, oh yeah, you guys realize that what you're insinuating is that you're blaming the familial culture on the student's lack of success, where you need to look at yourself in the mirror. Like, how much of that rhetoric am I actually adopting? Am I internalizing? And that's to extend my reflection to myself. That's a question that I have. Another thing that Sylvia did that reminded me, it's like I was seeing my co-teacher in this narrative, was that there's a quote. Oh, here it is. I make things a lot more simpler for my kids than you'd see in a regular white class. Now, Rocky didn't say this. Rocky is the name of my regular algebra teacher. He didn't say this in particular, but he did say that explicitly several times, that, well, my students in this class aren't like the students across the hall because they don't have those skills. Like, yeah, and that might be true. Some of them don't have fundamental skills in order to in order to perform like higher level mathematical thinking. However, he writes them off. He doesn't actually give them the opportunity. Like in one classroom, students are deprived of the opportunity to think in one way. In another, they're expected to think in a way. And I think that's the main difference, and I think that's something that I'm seeing in Sylvia's narrative. And I'm going over the time. Okay, that's it. I don't really have anything else to say.